Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Outside the Box Conversations. And I love when we have people on for a second time. And this, of course, is Carolyn Anderson. And Carolyn, we were rapping a little bit before. And first of all, how are you doing? I know I'm catching you right in between massages.
Yep, I'm doing fine. Thank you. I'm doing what I love to do.
Are you exhausted?
Not exhausted. It energizes me.
Energized. Okay, I like that. She's energized through all the massages. And I got to ask, because it feels to me like my hands would get so tired if I was giving massages. How's your hand strength doing?
Very well. Yeah. I was going to say my nickname as a kid was Ox, so I'm strong as an ox anyhow.
There you go.
And when I was first getting into massage, that first year or so, my wrist would be tender, and I would have chiropractic adjustments. Of course, I would have massage therapy, and so my hands would get better. But it's over time. And having the right ergonomics, having the right positioning at the table, leaning on the table, and also using my body weight behind my hands helps a lot rather than just using hands and arms.
That's so funny you mentioned ergonomics, because that is becoming such a term that everybody's concerned about, given the nature of most of our work, which is, sitting, that sort of thing. Do you talk a lot with your clients about ergonomics?
I educate as much as I can.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you educate somebody who's sitting down all day in front of a computer screen, with their necks out? Like, I know you could probably go forever about that.
Yeah, I probably could.
But ergonomics, right?
Yes, absolutely. You have to have your shoulders square, your back straight, your neck, have the telephone up to your face rather than your head down. There is such a thing called tech neck, and our necks are getting straight rather than that natural curve. Well, and it's a problem.
Well, guys, I tell you what, take that to heart. I think that right there alone is going to help so many people, because so many people are sitting at desks. But to start off this podcast, I want to ask you about the initials behind your name. It is LMT and CMMP.
That's right.
And I'm just gonna take a stab here, because we talked about it a little while ago. But the first one stands for licensed massage therapist, mm-hmm. and the second one stands for certified medical massage practitioner.
Very good, then. Yes.
So walk us through that, like for the audience here who's going through, choosing massage therapists. Walk us through what those mean and what the difference is.
Sure, thank you. So an LMT is someone that's been to school, and that could be 500 hours to 1,000 hours in New York State. And they learn anatomy, physiology, and different modalities of giving a good Swedish massage. A Swedish massage comes originally from Stockholm, Sweden, from a Dr. Ling, and he, the name of it was called, I'm going to get this right, something gymnastics, physical gymnastics, and that is also the origin of physical therapy, as well as when it came over to America, then massage therapy kind of formed out of that also. So it is the Swedish effleurage, the gentle, smooth, flowing strokes that we do to calm the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. It's the one that puts out the endorphins. And so then there's a lot of, along with the Swedish massage, then you can have different modalities, and there's deep tissue also. And so the Swedish massage, the LMT, will often be in a spa setting with the soft music and the essential oils. A lot of times the crystals. And let's talk about the crystals for a little bit, because everything has energy, and I use crystals also because each of our different systems in our bodies vibrates at a different frequency, and the crystals also have different frequencies. So they can be healing, and it doesn't have to be of another worldly kind of thing or questionable, but and I'm really getting off subject here, but the Timex watches uses clear crystal quartz, and scientific instruments, testing instruments use clear crystal quartz. And so if they can use them, I believe that I can too, to promote healing.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Does everybody with a Rolex on, are they, getting some calming effects from that?
Well, it could be. I've got my little diamonds in my ears.
There you go.
I've got here mother of pearl and iolite, and each has a different frequency. Okay, so let's go on to medical massage therapy.
Okay. Yep. Medical massage therapy. What about the CMMP?
That is the certified medical massage therapy or practitioner. And so I learned from a Dr. Ross Torchaninov from Ukraine. And over there, they do things differently in their medical world. They see, an MD would see someone with somatic or muscular pain, and they would be sent to the medical massage therapist, practitioner actually, who is an MD or an RN. It is a specialty over there, just like cardiology. I get so excited when I think about that because they take the muscular system seriously. And we're covered in muscle, inside and out. Of course the muscle has so much to do with not only somatic problems, but visceral problems.
Can you explain the difference between those two?
Yes, I can.
A somatic and a visceral?
Right. Somatic is muscular.
Okay.
And visceral are the internal organs.
Okay.
And so train on track here.
I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. So we're
So when Moscow heard of Dr. Ross, we're back in Russia. He is the one that's training the MDs and the RNs. So he comes over to America in the mid-90s and was amazed that that massage therapy was so little used or thought of. And so he's based in Phoenix, Arizona now, and he gives 3-day seminars to certify LMTs, licensed massage therapists, as certified medical massage practitioners. And so what we do is we test and palpate, ask questions, interview the client, and we find out what muscle or muscle group is involved, and then we follow a specific protocol to help relieve those muscles and get the tension out. Often it's resolution. Sometimes it can't be resolution, but greatly relieved of the pain the client is.
It's amazing.
Like frozen shoulder and carpal tunnel and plantar fasciitis, those are just some of the few. Some of my favorites are the piriformis muscle syndrome, to work on the hips and just relieve all of that pain down through the hamstrings and the tibia, the calves, get those spasms out. So we use different modalities in medical massage. It's not a technique, it's a group of techniques. So there is the therapeutic relaxation massage. There is sports, pre and post sports massage. And then there's medical massage, in my opinion, that encompasses different modalities to resolve problems. Like we even have a sprained ankle protocol that you start up in the thigh and you work your way down to relieve tension from the hip and the thigh, the calf, and finally the ankle, and to get the inflammation out of the ankle.
So the modalities, do they have to do a specific like places on your body? Or I know like there's the medical model, but when you say modalities and you just mentioned, trying to heal an ankle, is that what you mean by a modality?
A modality is using effleurage. I use a lot of, so it's a different technique. Modality, technique, kind of the same thing. And I use Chinese moving cups, and that lifts the skin and fascia up off of the muscle and tissue underneath, allowing for better circulation. some other things are manual lymph drainage massage, affecting the lymph of our bodies, which is the drainage system. It removes the toxins.
The lymphatic system is really interesting, and Dr. Rogers talks a lot about the rebounder that helps with lymphatic flow as well. It's a fascinating impact on people's health, But so tell us, for somebody who is wanting to seek out massage, how would you suggest they go about it in terms of picking a massage therapist as well as maybe approaching a consult or an exam?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's my opinion that elbows should be used very conservatively, if at all. You need to ask questions of the therapist, the practitioner, and see how they typically do. And if they have references, call up these people and ask, how does your therapist work? Ask for references.
Is it so specific where like maybe one therapist would fit better with a certain type of person, et cetera, like somebody who might want a little deeper tissue massage, or is it all kind of universal? Have you found that? What's your thoughts on that?
Every massage therapist is as different as the next one.
Sure.
Because of their energy, because of their personality, how they understand or not the body, and how many years they've been practicing, how intuitive they are, tuned into people they are, and how well they know their skill and how confident they are. Mm-hmm. So all of that plays into the therapy.
Yeah.
And I don't use elbows because elbows can damage the muscle tissue, and I would like to emphasize that. So there's ways of giving a deep tissue massage by going down layer by layer and not just boom, a lot of pressure on the muscle itself. See, I affect the skin, the fascia, the muscle, and the bone. You can have anomalies or reflex zones in each of those layers or levels. The skin can either be itching in one spot, especially on your back, and the more you scratch it, the more it itches. And or you can have little pin pricks in that same area sometimes. So I have a way to resolve those problems. And then fascia can be tight. Fibromyalgia is often thought of as a fascial problem. And there are 18 trigger points, 18 areas that they're tested on are known trigger points. So I'm sure fascia or fibromyalgia is not that simple as to say they're trigger points, but that's just one example. Of course, we all know muscles have trigger points in them, which are gnarled, knotted up muscle fiber. And then there can be trigger points on the bone where the belly of the muscle is so tight that it's pulling the tendon off of the periosteum, that's a single layer of cells on the bone, that when the periosteum comes off the bone with the tendon, then it sends all kinds of pain messages up to the brain. And you might not feel it as a sharp pain at first until I get on there, but you might just feel this tightness on your hip, especially, is why I'm pointing to the hip. You can have it around the waist muscles called the quadratus lumborum on the ribs. And so it is a detective game.
Speaking of a detective game, like, are you going into it looking for anything in particular? So say somebody comes in with, pain in one area. Are you first going to start with like the skin layer and then the muscle layer? Is that like your process, or are you going to go after the certain trigger points and see maybe, if any of those are flared up?
Right. First, I want to relax the client by doing some effleurage. And then I listen to them after the interview and after palpating. Then I have a pretty good idea. And so then I test by doing a skin lift to see how tight or not the fascia is. And it's a layer by layer working down. I never go for the trigger points right off the bat because that's just well, that's skipping some steps.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes total sense, actually.
And then with the periostal trigger points, that's always on a few sessions down the road, because you have to get the tension out of the belly of the muscle before you can relieve that sharp place on the bone where the tendon is pulling off.
When people say they feel, because often I'll hear them when they come out of your room, just out of massage, they just feel so much better immediately after. Mm-hmm. What is that? That
is the massage helping the body realize it needs to produce endorphins,
okay,
which are the feel-good hormones that help us to relax. It puts us into a nice parasympathetic equilibrium. And it also, massage is great for boosting the immune system, because when we are moving the fluids around and affecting the muscle, then that also signals the brain to produce the immune system. Often when a person comes in with a head cold or they're not feeling quite right, and I know this, well, not here in COVID, of course, right. But pre-COVID, if they just had a head cold, I'll say, well, I'll give you a massage. It might make your symptoms worse, but for a shorter duration, because you're stirring up the germs, but then I'm also kicking in the immune system and enforcing it.
So fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things that a good massage can impact. I kind of want to go back to the elbows thing. Like, is there such a thing where a massage can be like real negative, in the sense that it has a negative consequence if somebody goes too hard or too deep?
Or too long.
Okay. Yeah.
I have done that many times at the beginning of my career, and people would get off the table dizzy and lightheaded. I'm going, oh, I overworked you and I worked too long. Because that's kicking in the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. So people, yes, have also, this is, way back when I was first starting, they would get off the table and they would be very lightheaded, have to sit in their car for a while, or they would develop a headache a little while after. This is all signs that I worked too hard or too long. And then with the elbows, you can damage the muscle tissue. There is such a thing called myogelosis, and that is a gel-filled trigger point, a muscle that the trigger point has been replaced with gel. And then if it keeps getting treated the wrong way with elbows in that trigger point, or too much pressure all at once without preparing the muscle around it, then you'll have satellite trigger points around that gel-filled trigger point. The myogelosis doesn't hurt, but then you've got satellite trigger points around it, and then you've got a compounded problem.
That's fascinating. And my mind was going back to our first conversation. We were talking about, fascia. And when I think of fascia, I think of, tightness around the muscle. Is that, could that contribute to some of these muscle tears that you're talking about if it's too tight? Is there any relationship between a tight fascial system and what you're talking about with tearing muscles, or going too deep on
Absolutely.
Muscle? Okay.
Absolutely. And I'll answer that after I say this, that on TED Talks, there is a fantastic talk about fascia, and everyone should look it up. I can't remember the woman's name, but she has a man come out in a bodysuit like our fascial suit that covers us from the tops of our heads to the tips of our fingers and toes. And she'll pull on one part of this bodysuit, and at the waist, say, and that constricts leg movement, and you can't quite extend your arm all the way up simply because the fascia is too tight. And if you try to stretch that fascia too quickly, then people really hurt from a massage therapist. I mean, session.
Does that and that leads to pain? So that's a great visual in terms of like pulling a suit. Could the pain come from the compensation from like lack of mobility, or is it from the way it's wrapped around your muscles?
Right. So fascia is made of collagen, which is as strong as steel, doesn't like to stretch very far. It can be coaxed to, but it can't be forced like modeling clay. You have to work it. And then it's also made of collagen and a ground substance, fluid and enzymes and different things. So let's talk about the collagen. And so it is, fascia covers us superficially, like a wet bodysuit, I said. And then it also is in between the layers of muscle down to the cellular layer level of the muscle fiber. You get a visual, don't you?
Yeah, my goodness.
Some people think that muscle wouldn't have any shape if it weren't for the fascia. That fascia actually gives muscle its shape.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting anatomist that came up with that, Tom Myers.
And it's not just around your muscles, the fascia. It's down to the cellular level.
It's around every part of every spindle of muscle. And so the muscle fiber is in spindles from the very smallest little fiber cell, and then it builds, and each one of them are in spindles like a shock absorber. And that's how muscle moves. So the fascia wraps all around every part of the muscle fiber.
How do you know if someone has healthy fascia?
Well, superficially, it'll pull up.
Okay.
That is such an interesting question. Nice. And so I do a test on people's back when they're prone, face down. And if it comes up evenly between my fingers and easily...
Skin?
Mm-hmm, their skin.
Okay.
If it comes up evenly and easily, then I know that they have healthy fascia. Athletes often have healthy fascia because they're stretching, they're working out, they're eating right, and all that kind of thing. So then the deep fascia, then I put my fingers down on either side of their spine along the big muscle, the erector spinae, that goes along either side of the spine. And if it has the orange peel look with these little dimples, think of an orange.
Okay. I had to think, okay, so I've taken the skin off.
Not off. It's the orange peel.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
And it has little dimples.
Yeah.
So people's deep fascia will look like an orange skin with the little dimples if it's tight in between the layers of muscle. This is all stuff coming from Dr. Ross.
Interesting.
From Russia.
And that's not the TED Talk that you mentioned.
No.
Okay. What we'll do for the people who want to dive deeper in, we'll link that TED Talk up for sure. And Dr. Ross, he has some...
Scienceofmassage.com.
Okay, scienceofmassage.com, especially for the people who... I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole with this stuff because it's so fascinating. Like you and I could have this conversation with you for hours, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But do you guys understand the difference between a licensed massage therapist and a certified medical massage practitioner? Because I do. You did a great job of explaining that to me. And I'm so sorry for taking us down so many different trails, but I'm just super fascinated by all this stuff. Super cool. Will you come back on the show?
Oh, I'd love to.
Because there's like 5 other topics I want to talk about.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ben.
Guys, this has been Carolyn Anderson. I am Ben Rogers, your host of Outside the Box. Thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, don't go away because we'll come back.
Don't go away.